In May of 1941, the North Atlantic became the stage for one of the most incredible naval pursuits in all of history. We're talking about the hunt for the German battleship Bismarck.
And this right here, this is how that story ends. This is the most feared warship of its time, a 50,000-ton monster, burning and completely helpless. After this relentless chase by Britain's Royal Navy, its fate was sealed, just 300 miles off the coast of France. Just listen to this. This was the final, defiant message sent from the ship. It tells you everything you need to know about the desperation of the situation. The Bismarck was trapped, it couldn't steer, and the entire British fleet was closing in for the kill. There was absolutely no way out.
But how on earth did it get to this point? To really get the final battle, we've got to rewind a few days to see how this whole epic chase kicked off. Because for the British, this wasn't just a strategic move anymore. This had become personal.
Okay, so it all started with something called Operation Rhinoboom. The plan was pretty straightforward. The Bismarck, along with its partner, the heavy cruiser Prince Eugen, would sneak out into the Atlantic and just wreak havoc on the Allied convoys, the supply ships that were basically Britain's lifeline. The Bismarck was designed to be a predator, to starve an island nation into submission. Just look at the scale of this chase. It covered thousands of square miles of open ocean, and it started with a massive success for the Germans. Right here, in the Denmark Strait, the Bismarck ran into and sank HMS Hood, the absolute pride of the Royal Navy, and it did it in just a few minutes. That single act, well, it lit a fire under the British Admiralty like nothing else.
After the Hood went down, the British threw literally everything they had into the hunt. The difference in forces was just immense. You have Germany's single battleship now facing this massive task force, pulled from all over the Atlantic. This was no longer just a naval operation. This had become a mission of national revenge.
You know, for a little while there, it really looked like the Bismarck might actually pull it off. The Hunter almost slipped right through the net. But then a single, fateful decision turned the tables completely. So let's just walk through this incredibly critical 24-hour period. After sinking the Hood, the Bismarck actually manages to shake its pursuers. For more than 30 hours, it just vanishes into the Atlantic. The British are completely lost, searching in the wrong place, thinking it's heading back to Norway. But it's not. The Bismarck is pretty much home free, steaming towards the safety of occupied France. So here's the crucial mistake. Admiral Lutyens, who doesn't know he's gotten away, sends a long 30-minute radio message back to Germany. The British intercept it, they get a fix on the position, and they realize their huge mistake. The Bismarck isn't running for home, it's making a break for France. The entire hunt turns on that single error. Okay, so now the British know where the Bismarck is going, but they are running out of time and, just as importantly, they're running out of fuel. They had to slow it down, and their only hope, rested on a seemingly impossible attack. Britain's last chance came down to these. Fairey Swordfish torpedo bombers. I mean, look at them. They were ancient biplanes, literally covered in fabric. Their top speed was under 140 miles per hour. They were slow, they were vulnerable, and they were flying into a storm against the most heavily armed ship on the planet. It's a mismatch that's almost hard to believe. You've got pilots in what were basically World War I-era aircraft going up against a state-of-the-art killing machine. But here's the incredible irony. Their biggest weakness was also their greatest strength. The Swordfish flew so slowly that the Bismarck's advanced, fast-tracking fire control systems, they actually struggled to get a lock on them. These old planes were all the Royal Navy had, and they turned out to be the perfect, unexpected weapon. And somehow, they did it. Launching from the carrier Ark Royal in gale force winds, they actually found their target. One torpedo hit the main armor belt and basically did nothing. But another one, a complete one-in-a-million shot, struck the stern. It didn't sink the ship, but it did something much worse. It jammed the rudders, forcing the Bismarck into this slow, endless circle, turning it right back into the path of the waiting British battleships. With its steering gone, the Bismarck was a sitting duck. The next morning, the British battleships King George V and Rodney showed up and just opened fire. The fight was brutal, and it was completely one-sided. Within half an hour, the Bismarck's big guns were silent. For another hour, the British ships just pounded the wreck, firing almost 3,000 shells. By 10:40 in the morning on May 27th, the Bismarck finally slipped beneath the waves. But you know, the story doesn't really end there. The aftermath of this battle brings up as many questions as it answers.
Aboard the Bismarck for its first and its only wartime mission were over 2,200 men, sailors, officers, young cadets.
And this is the number that survived. British ships managed to rescue 110 men before a U-boat scare forced them to leave the area, leaving hundreds of men behind in the water. The human cost was just staggering. And these weren't just numbers. They were individuals, like Franz Kienast, a 23-year-old who went down with his ship. And that's a tragedy that was repeated over 2,000 times that morning. Now, this might seem like a pretty obvious question, right? But believe it or not, there's a debate that is still going on today about what actually delivered the final sinking blow.
So, on one side, you have the Royal Navy. Their position is pretty clear. After 400 shell hits and multiple torpedoes, the ship was doomed, period. But on the other hand, German survivors swore that the order was given to scuttle, to intentionally flood the ship so that it couldn't be captured by the enemy. The real truth? It's probably a bit of both.
You know, maybe the best summary of it all comes from the man who actually led the hunt, Admiral John Tovey. Despite the brutal chase, despite the loss of the Hood, there was this clear sense of respect for the fight the Bismarck's crew put up against an entire fleet. It's a really poignant end to such a savage battle.
And that leaves us with one last, really fascinating question. What if? What if that one torpedo hadn't jammed the rudder? If the Bismarck had made it to a French port, it could have been repaired and sent out again, maybe with its sister ship, the Tirpitz. A force like that could have cut Britain's Atlantic lifeline, and that could have changed the outcome of the Battle of the Atlantic, and maybe the entire war. It's just a stark reminder of how history can turn on a single one-in-a-million shot.